So Stephen Fry is quite a big deal in the UK. Um, he's kind of considered like a nice person who everyone wants to have as their dinner party guest. That's like the kind of the meme. Like, pick your top 5 dinner party guests. Everyone in the UK says Stephen Fry. Um, I I've had varying opinions on him. There's a TV show called QI, which I used to watch when I lived with my parents and I had a TV. I don't have a TV now. Who cares? Off topic. But that was quite good, and I kind of liked him from that. And he used to do a comedy show, and some of the clips from that are funny. I never really watched it. But then, he was the voice of the Harry Potter audiobooks. Him and JK Rowling were friends. Before she came out as a horrible person, and they interacted with each other publicly, and etc. etc. And then she came out as gender critical and started hating on trans people. And Stephen Fry is like publicly a gay person and has done gay rights activism. I remember watching a documentary of his, which was really good actually, where he went to loads of places where being gay was illegal and like confronted the politicians and stuff. That was really good and quite brave of him and stuff. And he's done things about religious extremists who hate LGBT people. So he's been an LGBT activist, and he's been quite good about it until the JK Rowling thing. And then he was defending her and saying that she wasn't transphobic and all this kind of stuff. And it was like, so it wasn't at the time when people, when she had her first middle-aged moment and she liked that transphobic tweet, and we looked and saw all of her people who she was following were like horrific extremist anti-trans people. We all knew she was transphobic at that point. And it wasn't then when he was defending her. It was like a year or more after she came out with her essay saying that trans people shouldn't have human rights. And he kind of carried on doing it for ages, and then he just kind of went quiet on it. And it's like, mate, this is someone who you publicly support, you're professionally intertwined with, and you're meant to be an LGBT rights activist, and you're like defending her. Garbage. Anyway, he's kind of gone quiet on her and hadn't said anything about her for years, a long time anyway. And now suddenly he's doing an interview and he's changed his position. So here we have an article from The Standard. Stephen Fry turns back on Harry Potter author, calling her a lost cause over trans views. It's actually a bit more extreme than that, which is good. God, I hate all these fucking websites with stupid pop-ups. Anyway, Stephen Fry has become the latest Harry Potter alumnus to turn his back on author JK Rowling, accusing her of being radicalized, calling her views on trans people cruel and mocking. So a quote from him: "She has been radicalized, I fear, perhaps by TERFs, but also by the vitriol that is thrown at her." So still doing a little bit of both sides thing. "It's unhelpful and only hardens her. I'm afraid she seems to be a lost cause for us." Meaning LGBT people, presumably. "She started to make these peculiar statements and had very strong, difficult views." But this guy, by the way, if you don't know Stephen Fry, like, look up a clip of him. He is like what you imagine when someone says a British person. He's very well spoken. He's like quite plummy. He looks posh. He sounds posh. He obviously went to like Cambridge or Oxford. He doesn't ever give, like, he's very polite and doesn't ever directly say anything. He always stutters and murmurs around it. And so when he says things like she started to make these peculiar statements and had very strong, difficult views, she seemed to kick a hornet's nest of transphobia that's been entirely destructive. I mean, like, if this was me, I would say she started saying horrific anti-trans extreme stuff, and I think it's horrific. Like, she's a dickhead. But I'm not as posh as him, so this is him saying the same thing. I'm decoding this from British to English. From like England English to everyone else English. It's quite extreme for him to say this. I disagree profoundly with her on this subject. She says things that are inflammatory, contemptuous, and mocking. They add to a terribly distressing time for trans people. Fry said he once enjoyed Rowling's company and had chosen not to speak out publicly at the height of the controversy despite criticism. He told this podcast that he wouldn't abandon either Rowling or his trans friends. But this is the thing, and now he's come to the position where he agrees with me on this by the looks of things. You can't defend both JK Rowling and trans friends. You can't, she abandoned not just trans people, she abandoned a reasonable life. She abandoned, coexistence. She abandoned dignity and respect. She abandoned trans people's existence. And so you aren't faced with a choice. It's not like two of your friends had an argument because you went to a dinner party and one of them was rude to the other one and you don't want to back down. They're both nice people. I wish they would just get along. That seemed to be his position. But she's out there calling for vigilante action against us and funding people to take away our human rights and targeting random trans people and trying to ruin their lives. And you're like, oh, I just wish everyone would get along. She fucking hates us. She's an extremist. She has lost her mind. And I'm glad he's finally seen sense on this. But this wasn't 2022. This wasn't this isn't 2019. We knew, she was horrifically grim at this time. She was well down the rabbit hole. She'd given up all pretense of being a nice person at this point, and he was still defending her. And that is why a lot of LGBT people were really pissed off with Stephen Fry, and it's why I kind of didn't like him anymore. But now he's finally given up on this both sides in bullshit. Now take a firm stance. When it comes to transphobia, it is right to remind people that trans people are here and that they are hurting, he said. They are being abominably I do know this word, I just can't say it, treated. There's a great deal of bullying, violence, suicide, and genuine agony in the trans community. From JK Rowling! So I'm glad that he's seen that. He also warned against reducing the debate to social media outrage. Here we go. He still has a garbage position on this. It's just better. To scream transphobe at anyone who doesn't buy into every single aspect of a trans person views is self-harming. Who's doing this? There's two ways to read this. One is he's claiming that trans people say transphobe at anyone who doesn't agree with them on everything. When was the last time you've seen any trans person ever do that? When have I ever done that? I meet someone and they don't agree with me about non-trans stuff. I'm not calling them a transphobe. About trans stuff. I have arguments with trans people publicly on Twitter all the time. Or not Twitter now, Blue Sky. Have done this week. You can go and look. Neither of us are calling each other transphobes because we both know, everyone involved, bystanders know, that we're both just disagreeing over what we think is the best way to fight for trans people's rights. Whereas someone like JK Rowling is not. So the one way to read this is trans people call everything transphobic. A nonsense position. And the other way is trying to tell us that we shouldn't be calling actual transphobic people transphobic because it's pushing them away. It doesn't get the thing done. You have to let people love you. Yeah, I mean, fuck off. It's very cis-splaining, condescending. I know. I've put in an insane amount of effort to winning people over. Okay? The people who you can let people love you, the people who are able to do that, aren't the people that we're calling transphobe. This isn't it's not like trans people and the rest, and then we're calling them transphobe and it's pushing them away. No, there's trans people, and then there's gender criticals, the transphobes, the extremists, the dickheads who we're calling transphobic, and then everyone else who is somewhere in between those two positions. And the vast majority of the people know absolutely nothing. And if you go back and look at what I've said about this kind of thing on this show before, there are people, we did a whole episode on this, there are people who'll come up and be like, I support trannies. And you're like, you know what, mate? Thank you. Actually, I will just add that is a slur for trans people, and you probably shouldn't say that in future, but I know what you're trying to say. Like, yes, it's technically transphobic to call trans people a slur. Okay, cool. But that's not interesting. I mean, obviously, but it's clear that someone who says that has their heart in the right place and they are supporting you. And yeah, that's the kind of person that calling transphobic doesn't benefit. But like, I'm sure that does happen, but it's not like a mainstream position. It's not something you need to call out. If I saw this happening, I'd be telling people to shut up about it all the time, because it'd be incredibly frustrating to see these potential allies being shut down by overzealous classification or whatever. I'm not seeing it. It's not an issue. It's not a real issue. A real issue is people being transphobic, like JK Rowling, and then rich, famous cis men telling us to stop saying it because we're causing part of the problem, or, you know, she's been radicalized both by transphobes and by the trans people who disagree with her. Like, fuck off. You don't know what you're talking about. Sure, you know, you fought for gay people's rights for longer than I've been alive. And for that, I am grateful. But at the same time, I think this is a garbage position. It's not like, oh, there's good and there's bad and Stephen Fry is bad. Obviously, his public position here is much closer to good than bad, but it is still frustrating to buy into this idea that trans people are part of the problem. We are not the part of the problem. I mean, there are some trans people who are part of the problem. Same with every minority group. But in general, not to the point where it's an issue to talk about, to raise up as some kind of both sides. Stop trying to both sides this. It's not a both sides thing. But yeah, so then we get a little summary here. Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson and Rupert Grint, who are Harry Potter, Hermione Granger and Ron Weasley from the films respectively, have all supported trans rights. And in contrast, Tom Felton, who played Draco Malfoy, like, could this be any better? The good guys from the book are good. And the guy who played the fucking bad guy, it's just, mate, history, like, real life is a joke. Like, what is going on? How did we end up in this world? Maybe we are living in a simulation. Anyway, Harry Potter and Hermione Granger are pro-trans, but Draco Malfoy, in real life, said, Rowling's views didn't change his gratitude towards her in the franchise. I'm not that attuned, he said in an interview. I always remind myself I've not seen anything bring the world together more than Harry Potter, and she's responsible for that. Right, so you don't give a fuck. You just want to get paid, and so you'll just say the good thing to make her not come after you. So, yeah, anyway, Fry reflecting on the tone of the debate, I always liked her company. I found her charming, funny and interesting, and then this happened. It completely altered the way she talks and engages with the world. Yeah, she lost her mind. She's a cultist. Anyway, we do have more to point out on this. Which is that there is a new Harry Potter thing coming out. So obviously we had the films before, and that's where Daniel Radcliffe and that are from. But there's a new TV series of Harry Potter coming out. I can't remember what it's called. I don't really care. And JK Rowling has since this has been announced, and since they've started casting actors, and in the process of this, it's not like this is all finished and then she said a thing. She said during this process that she's going to be using her money to fund attacks on trans people's rights in the UK. She's literally got a fund where you can report trans people at your work using the toilet, and she will help you sue them. Like, that is a thing she's actively doing. So obviously, when people are signing up to work for this TV show, it's a bit suspicious. Why would you work for someone doing this? Why would you contribute to her money? How can you be anything other than contributing to these attacks on like our human rights? Like you're part of this now, aren't you? To an extent, there's no ethical consumption under capitalism. If you work for Coca-Cola, then you're destroying the planet. If you buy things from Amazon, then you're supporting Jeff Bezos. Sure. But this is, maybe this is just me being affected by something and me being privileged and not being affected by like Coca-Cola. Whereas if I was like a child slave who didn't have water living in a third world country where Coca-Cola was, ruining everything, I would think differently. But it does feel a little bit different that this isn't like, well, you need to eat, so you've got to buy food from some shit megacorp. This is like art. You could create different art. You could get a different job and support a different story. Why do we have to have another version of Harry Potter? There's loads of great fantasy books. We could have a different series. You could work on a different series. You could not put your name to this. Maybe there are some people working on this and it's their only job they could get. Fair enough. I don't think that's true for these big name stars. But yeah, so there's been a backlash, obviously, to these people. But one of them kind of stood out to me, which is one cast member who has now spoken against JK Rowling's rhetoric is Shaun of the Dead actor Nick Frost. Frost will play Hagrid, whatever, the role originally played by Robbie Coltrane, and when he was asked about Rowling in an interview, he said, "She's allowed her opinion and I'm allowed mine. They just don't align in any way, shape or form." He believes the controversy shouldn't blow over, adding, "We shouldn't just hope it will go away because it makes it easier. Maybe we should educate ourselves." Frost's opinions echo those of Papa Sidiou, who plays Severus Snape. Shortly after the casting was announced, the actor was among hundreds of TV, film and professionals who signed a letter calling for industry action on trans rights. And I saw like the news being like, Nick Frost has gone against JK Rowling, and all the liberals being like, yeah, this is what everyone should be doing. Well done for him. But like, I'm sure this guy's a nice guy. Why are you doing it? You're making her money that she is using to take away trans people's human rights. Like, this is better. This is better than what that other dude was doing, than Malfoy was saying. For sure. Like, there's a range of positions, and this is not the worst one. I am not saying he is the transphobe or the worst person on earth, but like, I think this isn't good. This isn't like a 10 out of 10 position. He hasn't shown her like, oh, he's called her out. He's done something. This is in about where Stephen Fry is now. You've called this out, but like, you're still working for her and earning her money that she's going to use to attack my future. And you could not. Like, this guy, he's a good actor. He's in loads of things. In fact, quite often, I watch a film and I'm like, oh, it's the guy from Shaun of the Dead. He's in loads of stuff. And he could probably be in anything he wanted. So why is he picking this? Why is he putting his reputation and name to this? It's probably too late now. They probably already filmed it. But like, I just don't think this is good enough. Sorry, but I think this is kind of a bullshit position. And sure, he's not a 0 out of 10, but this is like what? Like a 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10? I don't know. It's just like rubbish. Why you do something else? So yeah, anyway, it is good. I mean, it's like we looked at Boy George recently, who also did a thing. It is good to see that a bunch of cis men don't really want to get involved. There's good, both siding people are losing their patience with JK Rowling and are giving up, but like a whole bunch of them have happened in a row. That's a good sign. People are seeing how horrible the gender critical movement is, and that's an important part of us building momentum in response to what they're doing. So maybe I should just be grateful for what we get. I don't know. Maybe if I meet him at the pub, I will thank him. But I just don't think it's... Like, some people will respond to me saying this, like, oh, well, no, you can't expect anyone to do anything for you then because, if you're like this, they'll feel like, well, why did I even bother? Like, I do stuff that I think is morally correct. And sometimes I don't do the best job of it. And someone will come for me. And I do get that feeling like, oh, for God's sake, like, I'm trying, like, okay, I'll give a real example. Recently, I was saying some stuff on Blue Sky, and a few people came at me and were like, why the hell aren't you using the alt text thing? You can write, like, little text descriptions for your pictures that you post. Sometimes you post a screenshot of a news article, and you can just copy and paste in the words. And some people came at me, maybe a bit too harshly, maybe not in their opinion. That's fine, you can go look at it, make your own decision, doesn't matter, I'm not coming for those people. And my initial reaction in the instant was like, oh, why are they coming feeling like, ugh. But then I thought about it for like one whole second, and I was like, no, I should, they're just right. Like, what is my moral position on this? My moral position is that there are people who can't see or who need help from screen readers or whatever, or who... There's a whole host of things I don't know and even know and understand about. So I might as well do this. And I am not just like a random Twitter user. I have like Blue Sky, sorry. I have like, thousands of followers, and I'm trying to be a position in the trans community to help others. So some trans people are also blind people, and like, what's the effort it puts on me? So I clicked a setting. There's a setting in the I didn't know about. You can go into settings and say, like, enforce alt text, so you actually can't click post unless you do it, which is really good because I just will not think of it otherwise. So I've done that, and now I'm doing it. Anyway, whatever. You can have your own opinion on that. That's cool. But on my position, I think that's the morally correct position, is to help other people. When they came for me, when I received polite feedback from my peers, actually, when they came for me, ridiculous. Exactly, it's just like a similar thing to this, not nearly as bad. They didn't do a video about me. They might have. But they, like, when someone says something to me, Katie, you could do better on this. I don't think this is really good enough. I'm a human. Of course, there's going to be some part of me that's like, oh, I'm trying my best, leave me alone. But also, like, I'm an adult. I'm a person. I'm able to do rational thought. And if I say to Nick Frost, mate, thanks, but like, this isn't really good enough, I think he should be adult enough to, and he probably would be, to be like, this doesn't feel good to be told this, but I will go away and think about it. And actually, my position is yes. And in future, I won't take a JK Rowling thing. And that's great. Maybe it's too late now. You can say sorry or not, whatever. But I do think that it is worth politely criticising your allies and potential allies. It's one of the things I said in my talk at the FJN conference, actually, was one of the differences between the trans rights movement and the gender critical movement. There's a lot of differences. But one of the differences is, if I said something immoral, if I went on Twitter and said something racist or sexist or homophobic or anything like that, or I announced I was like working on the new Harry Potter, you guys would fucking eat me alive. You would shred me. You would, like, you might have some, oh, well, Katie's been good on other things, so we'll give her a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. But you're not going to just be like, well, I'm not going to do anything. And I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think that's a good thing. It would be nice if I had clearly made a mistake, if you gave me the benefit of the doubt and said, hey, mate, you might want to rethink this one, delete this, and I'll discuss it with you in private. That's nicer than doing, like, a call-out video. But, like, how are we going to get better as a movement if we don't offer constructive feedback? Like, you can do it in better ways than others. Maybe this video is too harsh to Stephen Fry and Nick Frost, and if they're watching, I'm sorry if it comes across too harshly, but I just think you can do a bit better. And I'm sure I can do better on some things. And if you are organising for any kind of minority rights movement and someone comes and tells you you're not doing good enough, it's okay to be annoyed and be like, oh, fucking hell, but then just stop and think about it and then just do a bit better. And that's the difference. The gender criticals don't do that. When they say something racist, they all just defend each other. And then, because they're right-wing shitheads and they can't criticize each other, they have a hierarchy. You cannot criticize JK Rowling. You cannot criticize Helen Joyce. You cannot criticize Graham Linehan because they are your superiors. And that's how the movement works. It's like this hierarchy. In trans world, you can and do criticize trans people all the time. So just, that was a bit of a rant off topic, but I think it is good to be honest about the positions of our allies. And thanks, Stephen Fry. Thanks, Nick Frost. Thanks for finally calling out this horrible person. I do appreciate it. It is not nothing to be a celebrity and to take a position against a crazy hate-filled billionaire with the media on her side. So thank you. But also, I do think you could do better.